What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics. Today we got a reaction to Nirvana and their last studio album, In Utero, brought to us by our patrons. Every single month on Patreon, we have an exclusive album poll for an exclusive album of the month. It stays on Patreon for several months. Then it moves over to YouTube. So this won that poll. If you guys support us in any way for as little as $1 a month, everything helps keep this channel going. Check out our Patreon link below, the Patreon link on the end screen. If you want to give a one-time donation, one-time reaction, check out our Buy Me a Coffee page down below. All right, well, we've already done Nevermind years and years ago. I'm not the biggest Nirvana fan, but believe it or not, I've never heard this album. And it's not that I have any ill will against Nirvana. I think that sometimes in musical history, they're elevated to a level that maybe they shouldn't be, but maybe this album's going to change my mind. I know my partner in crime, Trey, thinks this album is better than Nevermind, and so do a lot of critics, so let's find out. It's the third and final studio album released in September 1993 by DGC Records. After breaking in the mainstream, of course, with their previous album, Nevermind, 2 years earlier in 1991, Nirvana hired Steve Albini to record In Utero, seeking a more complex, abrasive sound that was reminiscent of their work prior to Nevermind. Although the songwriter, of course, Kurt Cobain, said it was, quote, very impersonal, many songs allude to his personal life, expressing feelings of angst that were prevalent on Nevermind. It was recorded over 2 weeks in February 1993 at Pachyderm Studios in Cannon Falls, Minnesota. After recording finished, rumors circulated that DGC might not release it due to Albini's abrasive and uncommercial sound. It was mastered by Bob Ludwig to achieve a more desirable sound for Nirvana and DGC. Nirvana hired the producer Scott Litt to remix the singles All Apologies, Heart-Shaped Box, and Penny Royalty. It was a major critical commercial success. Critics praised its lyrics and raw, unconventional sound. It reached 1 in the US and the UK, 6 times platinum in the US, sold 15 million copies worldwide. It's the final album released before Cobain's suicide nearly 6 months later. Nirvana expressed dissatisfaction with the sound of Nevermind, citing its production as too polished. Earlier in 1992, Kurt told Rolling Stone that Nirvana's next album would showcase, quote, both of the extremes of their sound, saying it'll be more raw with some songs and more candy pop on some of the others. It won't be as one-dimensional. The producer of Nevermind, Butch Vig, said later that Cobain had needed to work with a different producer to, quote, reclaim his punk ethics or cred. Nirvana chose Albini to record their third album. Cobain said he chose Albini because he produced 2 of his favorite records, Surfer Rosa from 1998 by the Pixies, which is fantastic, and Pod by the Breeders. Cobain wanted to use Albini's technique of capturing the natural ambiance of a room via the placement of several microphones, something previous Nirvana producers had been averse to trying. Albini was known in the American independent scene for his criticism of the mainstream music industry and had a strict preference for analog recording rather than digital. He dismissed Nirvana as, quote, REM with a fuzz box and an unremarkable version of the Seattle sound. However, accepted the job because he felt sorry for them. They were the biggest band in the world at the time, by the way. That doesn't mean their music was the best, but I'm just saying, like, it's kind of a weird way to look at it for him. Perceiving them as, quote, the same sort of people as all the small fry bands I deal with, at the mercy of their record company. Nirvana and Albini set a 2-week deadline for recording. At the suggestion of Albini, who was wary of interference from DGC, Nirvana paid for the sessions with their own money. Studio fees totaled $24,000, while Albini took a flat fee of $100,000. Though he stood to earn about $500,000 from royalties, he refused to accept him as he considered taking royalties immoral and, quote, an insult to the artist. You got to give him credit for that. That's crazy. So the group stayed in a house on the studio grounds. Chris Novoselic, of course, the bassist, compared the isolated conditions to a gulag. He said, quote, there was snow outside. We couldn't go anywhere. We just worked. For most of the sessions, only the band, Albini, and technician Bob Weston were present. Nirvana made it clear to DGC and their management company, Gold Mountain, that they wanted no intrusion and did not play their work in progress for their A&R representative. Albini instituted a policy of ignoring everyone except for the band members. He said that everyone associated with Nirvana were, quote, the biggest pieces of blank I ever met. That's quite the statement. Steve pulling no punches here. Albini saw himself more as an engineer than a producer. Despite his personal opinions, he let the band choose takes. He said, quote, generally speaking, Cobain knows what he thinks is acceptable and what isn't acceptable. He can make concrete steps to improve things that he doesn't think are acceptable. Cobain reportedly recorded all his vocal tracks in 6 hours. Albini said that Cobain, who had struggled with drug addiction, was focused and sober in the studio, but I would imagine, right, that's partly probably why Steve said, we're going to come to Minnesota. You're going to live in this house by the studio. and we're going to isolate ourselves, right? Recording was completed in 6 days. Cobain had anticipated disagreements with Albini, who he had heard was supposedly the sexist jerk, but called the process, quote, the easiest recording we've ever done, hands down. The only disruption occurred a week into the sessions when Courtney Love arrived because she missed Cobain. Weston's girlfriend, the studio chef, said that Love created tension by criticizing Cobain's work and was confrontational with everyone present. And maybe that's part of my thing with Nirvana. Look, Kurt and Courtney both were extremely difficult people, treated people extremely badly. I mean, you're going to find stories where they treated people well, but as a rule, were just very, very much insufferable. And yeah. Okay. After the recording sessions ended, Nirvana sent unmastered tapes of the album to several individuals, including Gold Mountain and Ed Rosenblatt, the president of DGC's parent company, Geffen Records. When asked about the feedback he received, Cobain told Michael Arizard, the grown-ups don't like it. He said he was told the songwriting was not up to par, the sound was unlistenable, and that there was uncertainty that mainstream radio would accept Albini's production. Few at Geffen or Gold Mountain had wanted Nirvana to record with Albini, and Cobain felt he was receiving an unstated message to scrap the sessions and start again. And Utero debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200. Metacritic gives it a 90 out of 100, which is insanely high. Pitchfork a perfect 10 out of 10, NME 8 out of 10. Several critics rated it as one of the best releases of the year. It placed first and second in the album categories of Rolling Stone, and Village Voice, Paz, and Jop. Urine Critics polls, that one's very difficult. New York Times named it one of the 10 best albums of the year, and it was nominated for the Best Alternative Album at the 94 Grammys. It's number 173 in the Rolling Stone Top 500 Albums of All Time. All tracks written by Kurt, except Scentless Apprentice, which was written with Dave Grohl and Chris Novoselic. So if you haven't noticed before, the music won't be in the video, but it's going to be at a Vimeo link below. I'm really looking forward to listening to this. Let's jump into it. With the first track, Serve the Servants, it's been frequently cited for its autobiographical lyrics, which address the band's fame following the release, of course, of Nevermind in 1991, the divorce of Cobain's parents, and perceived media attacks against Cobain's wife, American rock musician Courtney Love. All right, I'm with the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, patron. All right, Serve the Servants, nice track, good opener. Kurt said this about this song this is from an excerpt from his journals. Initially, this song was about coming of age during a time when you're old enough to support yourself without the aid of your parents, a theme for the 20-somethings. I've always felt that a person doesn't necessarily have to force themselves to love their parents simply because of blood. If you don't like your parents or relatives, don't fake it. Tell them how you feel, and in my own way, I decided to let my father know that I don't hate him. I simply don't have anything to say, and I don't need a father-son relationship with a person whom I don't want to spend a boring Christmas with. In other words, I love you, I don't hate you, I don't want to talk to you. And it gets there in verse 2 in the middle. It says, I tried hard to have a father, but instead I had a dad. I just want you to know that I don't hate you anymore. There's nothing I could say that I haven't thought before. So it's a good opening track, good guitar sound. It's a Nirvana sound, right? Now we go to the second track, Scentless Apprentice. It was written during a band rehearsal in 1992. Unlike most Nirvana songs, the guitar riff was written by Dave Grohl rather than Cobain. It was such a cliche grunge tad riff that I was reluctant to even jam on it. Cobain told a reporter in the 1993 Nirvana biography, Come As You Are, the story of Nirvana. Oh, that's Michael Arizard that he told that to. But I decided to write a song with that just to make Grohl feel better, to tell you the truth, and it turned out really cool. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Kurt was incredibly condescending. Cobain added the ascending guitar riff played over the main riff and arranged the song, while Novoselic helped compose the song's second section. I think most of the reason that the song sounds good is because of the singing style and the guitar parts I do over the top of the basic rhythm. Cobain also said, so the song's great because of me. But hell, that was great. It's the only song in Utero in which all 3 band members received songwriting credits. The song's lyrics are based on the 1985 novel Perfume by German writer Patrick Süskind, one of Cobain's favorite books. The novel, set in France in the 18th century, tells the story of an orphan who was born with 2 notable characteristics. He had an extraordinary sense of smell, but he himself gives off no body odor of any kind. He is reluctantly cared for in an orphanage by nurses who think he is devil spawned, eventually becomes an apprentice to a master perfume maker, and later commits a series of murders in order to make perfumes from the scents of his victims. So there you go with the Scentless Apprentice. In a 1993 interview, Kurt said, I've read Perfume by Patrick Süskind about 10 times in my life, and I just can't stop reading it. It's like something that's just stationary in my pocket all the time. It just doesn't leave me. And every time I'm bored, like when I'm on an airplane or something, I read it over and over again. Cobain had not originally intended to turn his reading of the book into lyrics, but as the song music turned out quite fierce, the need arose for some strong lyrics to match, prompting him to base them on this story. All right, heavy instrumentation is pretty good. Songwriting, I just didn't really care for this song, but, your mileage may vary. Next up, we have Heart-Shaped Box, one of two songs remixed by Scott Litt prior to the album's release, due to the band's original dissatisfactions, I told you, with Steve Albini. The Litt remix also features additional vocal harmonies and guitar by Cobain, which were the only elements of the 12 main tracks not recorded during the original sessions with Albini in February of '93. Once again, in that biography, Cobain explained the Heart-Shaped Box was written about children with terminal cancer. However, the song is generally believed to be about his relationship with Courtney Love. This was the lead single, though it wasn't released in the U.S. To avoid competing with album sales, which is insane. The record company was so greedy that they didn't want to release singles so that more people would buy the album. The song did generate considerable American airplay, reaching number 1 on the Billboard Modern Rock charts, even though it wasn't released as a single, which is amazing. The physical single reached the top 10, including in several countries, including Portugal, the UK, Ireland, Finland, New Zealand. The song's title was inspired by the collection of heart-shaped candy boxes Love kept in front room of the Fairfax apartment she and Cobain lived in. Now, I've also seen where she sent him a heart-shaped box when she found out he was single because she had a crush on him. Early versions of the song featured the word coffin rather than box. It also was original working title was New Complaint. Courtney, however, said that it was about something on her body. I'll let you boys and girls figure that out. So Courtney was always inserting herself, whether it was then or even now, into claiming credit for so much of this stuff. All right, Heart-Shaped Box. The total Nirvana sound there. Kurt sounds great with the weight, it really sticks in your head. Guitar work's fantastic. All the instrumentation's great. I could see how it's about Courtney probably. It'd be nice if Kurt just told you what it was about, but a lot of songwriters don't like to tell you. It's kind of what you figure it out. They figure it's their thing. In the chorus, hey, wait, I got a new complaint. Forever in debt to your priceless advice. A lot of people feel like that was a dig at them constantly arguing and Courtney always putting in her 2 cents worth. But Kurt says that, that line, hey, wait, I've got a new complaint, was used to exemplify how he was being perceived by the media constantly surrounding him. He said, that's just giving me an example of how I'm perceived. People don't realize I'll say something and it'll be quoted in an article. Then it'll be taken out and used in another article in a different place. And then again and again. I only have said it once, but it looks like I'm complaining all the time because that's what the press said, that he kind of complained all the time. Next up, we have Rape Me. Often interpreted as a commentary on fame, it was written shortly before the release of the band's breakthrough album, Nevermind. It was intended to be a lyrically literal anti-rape song. However, the song's bridge was written several months later and does contain lyrics that reference the struggles Cobain and his wife Courtney Love faced with the media following their mainstream success. It was released as the album's second single in December of '93, packaged as a double-A side with All Apologies. It reached 32 on the UK singles chart, top 40 in Belgium and Ireland. It's the band's final single before Cobain's death in April of 1994. Written from the point of the victim, as Cobain explained to Spin in 1993, it's like she's saying, rape me, go ahead, rape me, beat me. You'll never kill me. I'll survive this, and I'm going to effing rape you one of these days, and you won't even know it. In 2019, Jenna Bush Hager revealed that her father, George W. Bush, prior to becoming U.S. president, broke one of her Nirvana CDs due to the lyrics of, quote, a really bad song, implied to be this one. There you go. There's a little bit of trivia for you. All right, Rape Me. Kurt's explanation of the song is really good. His lyricism is oftentimes super simple. Like, I know people view him as a genius lyricist. His lyrics are always just super simple. There's not a lot to him most of the time, and there isn't a lot to him in this, but the story behind it is good. And you can kind of read that into what the song is, but I mean, it's good. It's got that 4-chord guitar riff at the start that very similar to Smells Like Teen Spirit that kind of repeats itself throughout. It's well done, man. It's a well done Nirvana song. Now we got a song that was in a song battle we did. I don't remember it though. Frances Farmer Will Have Her Revenge on Seattle. The song's title and lyrics reference the American actress Frances Farmer, a native of the band's adopted hometown of Seattle, who struggled with mental health issues caused by an overly controlling mother and faced involuntary commitments several times in her life, which she claimed led to her suffering from systemic abuse. In that biography, Michael Arizard referred to Farmer as, quote, the patron martyr of Cobain and his wife Courtney Love, who identified with her in part because they saw parallels between her mistreatment by the media and their own struggles with the press. Cobain had been fascinated by farmers' life since high school when he first read the controversial 1978 farmer biography Shadowland by Seattle Post-Intelligencer film critic William Arnold. In 1993, Cobain made several attempts to contact Arnold, who did not respond. He eventually contacted the Post-Intelligencer's arts and entertainment editor and was surprised when Arnold did not know who he was. Arnold states that Cobain then, quote, called and left this rambling message, which included Cobain's theory that he was related to the judge who had signed the first order to commit Farmer. I thought to myself, I've really got to talk to this guy, Arnold recalls, but I was going through some other stuff then, and I just didn't. Then he killed himself, and I felt really bad. Arnold, who did not hear the song during Cobain's lifetime, had written Return the Call of KC, the Nirvana guy, at the top of his to-do list for April 8, 1994, the day that Cobain's body was found. That's some crazy stuff. On February 24, 1992, Courtney Love wore a satin-laced dress previously owned by Farmer when she married Cobain in Honolulu. Cobain and Love's daughter, Frances Bean Cobain, was named after Frances McKee, vocalist and guitarist for Scottish indie pop band The Vaselines, and not Farmer. Just FYI, because a lot of people do think she was named after Farmer because of this song. All right, really good song. Classic Nirvana instrumentation. Well written. You get the story of Frances and some of the things she went through and the frustration there. Yeah, I mean, it's viewed by some as one of their best songs, and I can see that. I mean, the song I didn't like so far, the only one I didn't like so far, Scentless Apprentice. One publication thinks it's the best song off this album and one of their best 5 songs ever. So, it just kind of depends on what you're looking for here. All right, we're almost halfway through this album. Next up, we got Dumb. The In Utero version features a cello part written and performed by Chicago musician Kara Shaley, a friend of the album's producer, of course, Steve Albini. Shaley never toured with the band because someone else did it during the tours, but all live versions of the song during the In Utero version featured cello. It was written by Cobain in the summer of 1990, so we're going to go back a little ways as the band began to move away from heavier grunge sound with their debut album Bleach towards more openly melodic pop-influenced material. In a 1993 interview with Melody Maker, Cobain explained the song was, quote, just about people who are easily amused, people who not only aren't capable of progressing their intelligence, but are totally happy watching 10 hours of television and really enjoy it. I've met a lot of dumb people. They have a shitty job. They may be totally lonely. They don't have a girlfriend. They don't have much of a social life. And yet, for some reason, they're happy. Okay, Kurt. Though written before Cobain's addiction to heroin, it's also one of the few Nirvana songs to directly reference drug use, specifically inhalants on this. In a 1993 Rolling Stone interview, Cobain told journalist David Fricke that he wished he'd put more songs like Dumb and All Apologies on previous Nirvana albums, saying that Nirvana had so far failed in showing the lighter, more dynamic side of our band. Once again, a really well done song. Coming out with I Think I'm Dumb at the very end on the outro, repeats it several times. You could read it through the song that, he's doing the inhalants. So the substances made him feel like he was happy, but when it wore off, he realized he actually wasn't happy. They were just making him happy, so now he thinks he's dumb. I think that's part of it, but who knows, man? Except we got a very short song. Well, it's a little less than 2 minutes long. Very Ape. All right, once again, a really good track. If you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to ask someone else first. That made me laugh in verse 2. I'm too busy acting like I'm not naive. I've seen it all. I was here first. A nice rockin' song. Guitar sounds great. Kurt sounds great. Now we have Milk It. All right, Milk It. Nice instrumentation. Not going to be among the standouts on this album, which so far there are several. Still a fine track. Next up, we have Penny Royalty. In November 1993, it was remixed by Lit. The Lit remix was included on the censored version of In Utero, released in March of 1994. So I don't know what version is on this, right, all these years later. The Penny Royalty single was set for release in April of 1994, but canceled following Cobain's death that month. I don't know why they just didn't release it anyway, but a few copies survived the recall and have been amongst the most sought after and expensive collectibles in all of Nirvana's catalog. So if you got one of those, boys and girls, you're in good shape. According to that biography, again, Penny Royalty was written by Cobain in 1990, so we're also dialing it back here, in an Olympia, Washington apartment he shared with Dave Grohl. Dave and I were screwing around on a 4-track, he explained, and I wrote that song in about 30 seconds, and I sat down for like half an hour and wrote the lyrics, and then we recorded it. The song's title refers to the tea made from boiling the leaves of the plant Mentha pelagium, or pennyroyal, which is used as an abortifacient, among other things, in traditional medicine. I probably butchered all of that. In Cobain's unused liner notes for In Utero, published posthumously in journals in 2002, the entry for this simply reads, "Herbal abortive, it doesn't work, you hippie." An interview in 1993 for the issue of Impact, he gave greater insight into the song, saying it was about a person suffering from severe depression. When I asked Cobain if pennyroyal tea is about indigestion, he half-laughs. Pennyroyal tea is a herbal abortive, he says. I threw that in because I have so many friends who have tried to use that, and it never worked. It's about a person who's beyond depressed. They're in their deathbed, pretty much. His own bout with serious stomach pain is well documented. Yeah, it did rub off on the song, he admits, and I couldn't help noticing the Canadian reference to Leonard Cohen afterward. That was my therapy. When I was depressed and sick, I'd read things like Malloy Dies by Beckett or listen to Leonard Cohen, which would actually make it worse. He laughs. Yeah, I can see that with Cohen. I always have been like sympathetic with Kurt and some of the ways he acted because of those serious stomach issues he had. I've had those at times over the years. I haven't had them for a long time, but it absolutely dominates your thoughts all the time. Every time I eat, I'm going to feel so I've always viewed Kurt a different way, even though, I said something about him. He's a difficult person to deal with, but when you're going through that, there's a lens you got to look through that and go, yeah, I mean, it changes everything about you. Let's check it out. Okay, so here is where I wished I knew more about this. I don't know if this is the remix or the original, because Cobain said about the original, he wasn't happy with the way it was mixed at all, that it should have sounded more like a Nevermind track, which I thought this did to an extent. I thought this was a really good song. The writing, once again, it's fine. It's the way that Kurt had that gift of knowing how to emphasize things and almost make his voice part of the melody of the song. He just knows how to do that, and it just fits along with the guitar work and drumming in there. So it's a really good song, whether this is the remix or not. And I'll try to figure that out after this. I'm going to go on my own and check it out. Got 3 songs left. We got Radio Friendly Unit Shifter. All right, Radio Friendly Unit Shifter. It's fine. I mean, so many of these songs on this album are top notch that it's okay. Next up, we have the shortest song. It's only a minute 35 seconds. We got Tourette's. Okay, there's lyrics to this song on Genius, which is the lyric website I use, but I'm like, is it really? But the lyrics aren't printed on the original release. And Kurt actually said, I didn't make any sentences or words. I just screamed. But it's like a hardcore punk song. So I think it works. So you can't tell what Kurt's saying. Reminds me of early REM, where you couldn't tell what Michael Stipe was saying. I mean, not the same kind of music, but same thing where they couldn't really put lyrics down. But it's not a standout, but it is pretty good. It's pretty interesting. They could pull off this style seamlessly. Now we go to the final tracks. All Apologies. Released as a second single, it's a double A-side single with Rape Me, as I talked about. Final single before Cobain's death. Not released as a physical single in the US, however, it became the 3rd Nirvana song to top the modern rock chart, reached 32 in the UK, top 40 in France, Ireland, and New Zealand, nominated for 2 Grammy Awards in 1995, and won a BMI Award for Most Played Song on American College Radio during the eligible period in 94 and 95. Also included in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's list of the songs that shaped rock and roll. Written by Kurt again back in 1990. In a 2005 interview, Dave Grohl recalled that the song was, quote, something that Kurt wrote on a 4-track in our apartment in Olympia. I remember hearing it and thinking, God, this guy has such a beautiful sense of melody. I can't believe he's screaming all the time. That is an interesting quote. According to Cobain's manager, Danny Goldberg, Cobain, quote, played the Beatles song Norwegian Wood over and over, hour after hour, while writing the song. Scott Litt was hired to remix this along with Heart-Shaped Box and, of course, later Pennyroyal Tea. The recording also features cello by Kara Sheely, who we talked about that. Cobain asked her to, quote, play around with All Apologies. As she recalled in the 2010 interview, most of the cello on that was me just messing around, and then Kurt had me learn one specific line that he wanted everyone to be playing the same thing on. I sort of thought they were going to scrap the cello on that one, but it stayed in. On November 18, 1993, Nirvana played an acoustic version of this during their MTV Unplugged performance, and that version is very well thought of. Q ranked this as the number 1 on the greatest Nirvana songs ever, and first on NME's list of Nirvana's 10 best tracks. So that's high praise. It's very high praise. Let's finish this thing off. All right, All Apologies. Really good song. I don't know if it's their best song ever. That's a high bar, but it's the first time I've ever heard it. Really well done. I'll get into this point when I talk about the overall album more so, but the melody on there, what Dave Grohl said exactly right on this song. Curtis said he likes to think this song was about Courtney and their daughter, Frances B. He said the lyrics don't match up, but the sentiment does. So he always thinks of them, he said, when he sang it. So now we're going to get to my faves. Honorable mentions: Rape Me and Dumb. Faves are going to be Serve the Servants, Heart-Shaped Box, Frances Farmer Will Have Her Revenge on Seattle, Penny Royalty, and All Apologies. And I say that knowing full well that many people consider Scentless Apprentice one of their best songs and the best song on here. And I didn't really care for that song, so it kind of comes down to preference, sort of. But as we get to my overall score, I'll expound on that a little bit. You've probably figured out watching this, Nirvana's not really my thing. Never was. But I'm not here to tell you what I liked and didn't like. I'm here to tell you from an objective point of view how this album is. And this album is absolutely fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, is it better than Nevermind? That's a great question. I think Nevermind has more high highs, but this album overall is just excellent in its consistency. If you never watch this channel, you don't understand how hard of a grader I am, but I'm going to give this a 9.0 out of 10, which is sky high. Sky high. I don't give out easy grades. I've given out 5 10s ever. So I don't give out anything, on 9s and above, hardly ever. But this is a 9.0. Interestingly enough, would I ever listen to this album again? I wouldn't, because once again, it's not my type of thing, but I recognize how great it is. So I'm curious to all you Nirvana fans out there that are watching this. Do you think this is better than Nevermind? Like I said, the highs are much higher on Nevermind in my opinion, but this album is more consistent and just almost excellent throughout all the way around. Really makes you wonder what direction they would have taken on the next album had Kurt stuck around. But let me know what you think of this down below. If you haven't already, give it a thumbs up. Super helps me out. Tell me your favorite tracks, all that good stuff. Thanks again to the patrons for voting this one in. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out that Patreon link below or the Patreon link that's about to hit on the end screen. And until next time, guys, I will see you.